All right, well, thank you for joining us, Peter. We have a really special guest on Pints with Ayre today. Joining Ariel and I is Peter Bohacek. Did I say that good?
You
Bohacek.
did. How
Yeah.
did you get that? That's
Is it
almost nobody gets that right.
is it Polish? Is it a Polish name?
It's Czech. My
Oh,
dad
it's
was
Czech.
born in the
Okay.
Czech Republic. Yeah.
All right. Close, close. Yeah, it's one of those Baltics kind of names. Well, Peter Bohacek. Yeah, the Peter is an Ayre Acoustics founding member, one of the three original founding members.
That's
I
right.
hope I gave enough credit to you there. That's kind of a big deal to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Along with Katie and Charlie, it was the three in the early days. It was just the three of us.
Yeah. So Peter, Katie, and Charlie started Ayre Acoustics 1993. So yeah, but before we get too deep into that, I'm going too fast. Let's talk about our beers today because Ariel had me get one of his favorites, so maybe I'll have him talk about that, and then we want to know what you're drinking here too.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so one of our classic Christmas time, holiday time, specialty brews, seasonal brews from Delirium Noel. I think we'd had it a few years ago, right here.
Oh, I see it.
The big
There you
bottle
go.
there. We had that same one. So yeah, this is really it's just this brewery is especially known for Delirium Tremens. It's probably one of my all-time favorite brews. We still haven't had it here. Up to maybe next year we'll pick up that one. So it's just a really strong Belgian, slightly holiday spiced. This is again probably my top few beers of all time.
That's an awesome choice, and I forgot how much I like that beer. And so now, as a result of this, I've never had the Noel version, but I'll go get some of that. I think that was really one of my first sort of specialty beers that was like really different from all the beers that I'd had before, and like that definitely was part of my kind of realizing that there's all this universe of great beer out there that I'd never experienced.
Yeah, that was one of the, well, I mean, being bull, I had plenty of kind of local specialty beers, but that was the first one that really kind of knocked my socks off. I think was when I think Alex Brinkman took me, and we had John Fair from Audio Consultants at the time out here on a trip, and we went to the I think Backcountry Pizza and Tap House here here in Boulder. And it was the first time I had Delirium Tremens, and that was the first time I really because beer was always, it wasn't that special to me, but that really opened my eyes to what some of the Belgian beers particularly.
Right.
So anyway,
cool.
And so, Peter, you're up in Minnesota, right? So do you have a
That's
Minnesota
right.
brew?
Yeah, I brought a really kind of my, as I was saying beforehand, my comfort beer. This is Surly. Surly is the brewery in Minneapolis, and it's, I think it's one of the kind of best known, along with Summit Brew, which is in St. Paul. That was kind of the first big, or at least as far as I'm sure I'm slighting somebody that had another one, but they were kind of the big local microbrew, kind of right on the edge of microbrew, pretty big. And then Surly came along in Minneapolis, and they make this IPA, and they, like they make seasonals and they make new varieties every once in a while. But this one I just keep coming back to. It's like always reliably an amazing IPA. So kind of a little bit of a rainy, cold, early winter night or evening, I guess I should say. So I thought this was perfect.
Nice. Yeah, I can usually do an IPA year round. Love them. Well, thank you for joining us with a pint. We're excited to have you. So, man, I really want to get I want the whole story. I want the whole thing. But before Ayre, there was Avalon Acoustics. Charlie was kind of a founder and involved in that. Did you know Charlie at that point, before Ayre Acoustics, or how
Yeah,
did you meet
I
Charlie?
did. I did. It's really fun to revisit that. So I was working at I lived in Berkeley, California, and I was working at DB Audio, really amazing audio store that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore,
No.
but was really a remarkable place. The two owners of that, Patty Wilson and John Jordan, one of the things they did was they really let those of us that worked there pick the gear that we loved best. It was totally motivated by like what gear were we most excited about. Like then people would come in and they would say, "Why do you have this gear?" We're like, "Because it's the best gear we know of, and if there was something better, we would sell you that instead." And so we, uh, it was a great place to work. A lot of customers that were really into it. And anyway, Patty came back from a show and she said, "I heard these Avalon speakers and they're amazing." And she told me about them. You know, a three-way, $11,000 three-way speaker, like completely unheard of. And she got a pair in and we listened to them and they were great. And then she said, "You got to meet Charlie." So I started talking to Charlie on the phone. And then eventually he came out and he brought the Eclipses and some Cardis cable, which he had introduced us to. And I was super into bike racing at the time, and I was kind of a novice bike racer. And Charlie had a lot more experience. We spent a ton of time talking about riding. And I think he came over. He came to DB Audio and like we got a bottle of tequila and pretty much drank the whole thing and stayed up at probably the entire night and just talked about audio and biking and whatever. And it was like that was a bond right then that Charlie and I formed. And so when he started to talk about wanting to do another company, I'd worked at that store for a long time, and I was ready for something different. So we agreed. I moved out to Boulder, and he already knew Katie Lehr at that time, and so off I went. Packed everything up in a U-Haul, my Volvo with my bikes on a trailer behind a U-Haul. Drove that out from Berkeley to Boulder.
Nice.
It was a great adventure.
That's awesome. What year was that again?
That would have been 1990.
1990. Awesome. Awesome. So before Ayre Acoustics, so you move out here. Did you get involved with Avalon at that time or?
I did. I actually worked for Avalon for a very short time. I came out and I was originally hoping that was gonna pan out. And I still think the world of those speakers and of the people that I worked with there, but it just wasn't the right thing. So I was there for a little bit and then uh, uh, kind of spent a year in Boulder while we were sort of preparing to start Ayre, and then kind of started working on it in earnest in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I hope I'm getting those dates right. I might not exactly have the timing of that right.
Was founded in 93 is our understanding. Yeah, I don't know what month, but 93.
Yeah, and I think we probably were working on it in the background, like before we got to the point where it was actually founded as a company. So because I think it was a gradual, right? Like most startups, you're like working on this thing. It wasn't called Ayre, wasn't a company. Just slowly was forming, and so that for sure was earlier than that.
Yeah. I just want to jump real quick because I think one of the points where Charlie and I again kind of connected was that whole bike racing thing.
Yeah,
It was also a bike racer. So yeah, we definitely connected on that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that little bit of a theme. You know, Andy Hampsten was one of the original investors, and Charlie and I went over to Italy to watch Andy race in the Tour of Italy, and I had one of the greatest fantasy bike racing experiences over there with Linda, Andy's wife, and Charlie and I were driving around, and so we went to the last climb of this like mountain stage. There were like 5 passes in a row, and this was the last one. And so Linda and I decided we would ride up it before the riders got there and wait at the top and watch the riders come through. And it was a long climb. I think it was 15 kilometers with an average of 7% grade. And so I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And so I started riding, and Linda was going kind of slow. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ride up ahead. This really doesn't seem steep. I got this. But it was definitely like a climb like this. So like the first part, I was like, whoa, I'm doing, and so then I'm walking my bike, and I was racing quite a bit at this, and I'm walking my bike up this climb, and Linda comes, she comes along, and she's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, okay, I'll get back on my bike. And so we crest up into near the top, and the field is like covered with all these fans, right? And so they're all getting ready for the riders to come through. And here comes Linda. She's in her full Motorola kit and Motorola bike and everything. And the crowd just goes crazy. And they go onto the road like they do. And so I'm just tucked
Yeah.
on her wheel and they're just cheering Linda and they got the flags on her. And I was like, I'm actually in the Tour of Italy right now. This is what it must feel like.
That's
So
awesome.
that was a great story so yeah, Andy, and then Gary Mulder, who I think you guys know,
Yep.
also bike racer. And so I moved into the house in Boulder where he and a bunch of other bike racers live. So yeah, there really is a bike racing thread to the foundation of
that I mean are you talking about Gary Mulder's house on the Mohawk?
exactly. Yeah.
That's where I
That's
moved
right.
in too.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I lived there for probably a year and a half or two. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yep. I lived in there for quite a while. The Palace.
Yep, the Palace. That's right. That's awesome.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I moved there in 98.
Okay.
And 98 to like 2000 or something. I lived there. Yeah, because I was in school in Golden, and then I'd been like commute, and I started Ayre in 96 and started like as like driving back and forth, and then finally moved. Yeah, in
Cool.
98 up to Boulder to just be closer to Ayre.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't done with school
That's
yet,
awesome.
but yeah.
Well, one of the stories that I remember hearing from Charlie starting Ayre that kind of stands out for me because I'm kind of a car nerd, is I heard that after he sold Avalon, he went and got a Miata and started Ayre Acoustics. That was kind of like the two things that he decided to do. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah, there was I do totally remember the car and totally remember how into the car he was. And I drove it a couple of times and I thought it was a cool car too, but Charlie did absolutely love it. And it's funny because Charlie was not a materialistic guy for the most part, right? Like pretty modest in a lot of the things that he wanted or whatever. But that car, and then I think he got a really nice turntable around the same time, the Versa Dynamics turntable, and those were like both things that were, from my perspective, so out of reach economically. And so, yeah, he really loved that. I'm unfortunately, I'm not going to remember the story completely, but there was a CES where we were sitting around afterwards and somebody played this funny joke on Charlie via me, where it made it seem as though I could read Charlie's mind. And I wish I could remember the details, like ask 3 questions, but then somehow somebody already knew the answer and had fed it to me, but I sort of didn't realize it. But anyway, the answer in the end was, if you could have any car in the world, what would it be? And this was before he bought the Mazda. And that was the answer to the question. And so when I said Mazda Miata, he was like, how could you know that? How could you possibly know that? So that's what I remember about the car. And then sure enough, he did get that.
Oh,
Well, yeah. I'm pretty sure his son still has that here in Boulder.
Oh, seriously?
Still,
well, that's awesome.
It's still in the family.
That's great.
Yeah, I think we need to help restore it and just leave it parked out front as like a museum piece, just a kind of a daily reminder.
Yeah.
Charlie made fun of my car though. I had a Volvo P1800. You've ever seen that car?
Oh.
Like mine was 1964. And it's
we have a couple Volvo nerds here right now that I'm sure.
Oh, really?
Jump in, and I'm not.
You'd recognize it probably if you saw it. It's like this low slung Volvo that has like 2 wings on the back, like where the taillights are. And it's like probably got to be one of the lowest performing sports cars of all time. I think it's exactly the same as any Volvo of that era with just a low slung body on it. And Charlie said that Volvo originally, like a big part of their business was tractors. And so he was like, really all that thing is a tractor with a sports car body. And so he referred to it as, we'd say, how are we going to go? He's like, let's take the sports tractor. That's what he called my car. And I was like, well, sure, you got a Miata. You can make fun of my super slow sports tractor.
Use that. That's good.
Oh man, what a saucy guy. He seems like he had quite a sense of humor.
Oh yes,
definitely.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. So yeah, 93, he buys a Miata, he starts Ayre. How long were you involved with Ayre after its foundings, and where did you go after? Because I know you were,
Yeah.
you've been out of the picture for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's funny because I think like my dad, when my dad kind of went, through school and went to grad school and got a job and like was on that sort of path that you do, that everybody knew what you're supposed to do if you want to go out in the world and be successful. And I think now we fully transitioned to a world with like my kids, they're just we know they're going to go out and try a bunch of different things and see what resonates with them. But I sort of feel like I was in between. And so I really did not know what I wanted to do. It's not like I ever thought I didn't have all this wish to be in the audio business. I knew I wanted to try different things. And so, I went from working at a stereo store, which worked really well because it was mostly in the winter. So I had my summer free for things like bike riding or windsurfing. Um, but yeah, so I stayed through that startup phase where we were working. I realized the other day that I had more sleepless nights, more all-nighters working on Ayre as a startup than I did in college by far, right? Because you got a lot of work to get done. You just have to do it, and there's only so many hours.
Yeah,
You probably
yeah,
have experienced that too.
yeah. I can definitely. I've got the same. Like, yeah, I spent more well, all-nighters working on prototypes, getting ready for CES over the years than I ever stayed up during college. Same thing.
And it's weird too because when you're doing it, it's incredibly hard. But I look back at that now and the other startups that I've worked on, and I just love it. I love that feeling like there's nothing else in the world that's going to get this done other than your work, and you're going to sit here for as long as it takes, and you got to get it done, and
Yep.
it's got to be good. And so I really learned that a lot at Ayre, and it wasn't fun, but I look back on it and I feel
Yeah.
like it was, or somehow I have good memories of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course we had no money. I think Katie set it up so we had salaries of $400 a month, and so living in the palace and failing to make ends meet. Uh, yeah,
Boy.
I think so. I think my last business trip that I did was when I took the K1 prototype to Japan, and yeah, that was the last official trip I did. And then on that trip, on the shuttle bus on the way to the airport to go to Tokyo is when I met my wife, who was now my wife. And she was on her way to Seattle to work on a postdoc. She just got her PhD at CU Boulder. And we met like, 5 o'clock in the morning on that shuttle bus. And I was trying to explain to her, going to Japan, I have this really cool preamp prototype. And, of course that doesn't make sense to anybody. But yeah, so I think when I left really was like getting the preamp done was like I feel like a real shift in maturity for Ayre. We had done, we had one product that we really used to get the company on the ground, and we knew that we could essentially double sales, right? Almost everybody who would buy an Ayre amplifier would probably buy an Ayre preamplifier. And so that was I felt as though we'd really succeeded, in some way by the time we got the preamp out.
That's cool. How old are you at this point in time?
Me? I'm
Yeah.
60.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's good. That
Oh,
tells
I
us-
thought you meant.
but yeah, like around this
Yeah, so
time.
I was like in my late 20s, early 30s. I think I was probably 32 when I went to that trip the last trip to Tokyo.
Okay. And so yeah, you were younger than Charlie, and you guys bonded.
Just a couple years.
Yeah.
Yep, a couple years. Yeah, and that was a big part of why I came to Minnesota. Because on that fateful shuttle bus ride before dawn on the way to the airport, that was just a good stepping off point, because then we moved here to Minnesota together, where she grew up, and she had a job waiting at 3M, and at that point, I think, at the time, I think it was wasn't great, like having us split the company up and go our separate ways. But now looking back, it's completely normal. Like it takes a certain skill set and a certain culture to get the company going, and then it takes a different group to keep it going from there. So at the time it wasn't great, but I think that's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And this has been described about us a few times now, but it's we've never quite taken off enough, and so we're always, it seems like we're almost always, feels like we're in a startup phase. And so like even today, like we're still kind of scrambling and scratching together. It's still like we're still like almost reinventing ourselves. It's almost as if we were, yeah, again in a startup phase. And that's been kind of our MO, that's been kind of our character, and we're trying to get out of that. We certainly want to get out of that because we don't want to be a startup forever, but that's what we've been almost.
Right.
But
It's so more like a small company, right? At this point, a lot of people
Well,
know
yeah.
who Ayre is, and so you're established in that regard. But when you're small, it's always, yeah, things are always a little hairy.
Yeah, yeah. You were small, and we've had major changes. For instance, Charlie's accident, and then we lost Charlie, and then our previous management left, and so yeah, so we've had a lot of major changes that we've had to kind of recover from. Again, all practically starting afresh each time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I kind of have thought about this quite a few times, but hats off to you, to you all, because I think a lot of times, when we started it, there were a lot of people who said we should call it Hansen Acoustics or something like that. And Charlie resisted that, and all of us resisted it, because as much as Charlie was a central figure, it was not only Charlie. And what really was a team
Yeah.
effort. And I think looking
Yeah.
back on it, that was super clear that each of us had our role. And that was exactly the hope, was that if something happens, that we're building something, right, that would outlast all of us. And I can think of there's lots and lots of companies where when a key person like that leaves for whatever reason,
Yep.
it's very hard to recover from. But
Yep.
you guys have done it. Like, you guys really have done exactly that. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not been easy. Yeah, but yeah, like even if Charlie didn't want that, I mean, after 20 something years, it was just his presence and his like just his voice just at shows and online. I mean, it was certainly viewed as Charlie's company. It was that was pretty clear, and I was never really in the picture at all. And so when it did pass, it was, and we knew it would be 3 to 5 years of fighting that thing that, all right, Charlie passed, so what is Ayre now? And so, yeah, that was difficult, and we knew it was coming, but it doesn't really help that much. So
right.
But yeah, we have survived that. We do believe we're well on the strong side of the back of that now.
Yeah, I would say so too. And here's why. I just went to Audio Perfection, the store here in Minneapolis, and heard the EX8, and that's the new Ayre. That's you guys, right? 100%, and it's phenomenal. And yeah, I heard that, and I was like, well, whatever concerns anybody would have about the transition, having Charlie not there, like, if they listen to that, like, that's a fantastic piece of equipment. So I would say that's pretty strong evidence that you guys have succeeded at that.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And it's, and it's absolutely, Charlie was such a unique figure and such, so strong-willed, and his philosophies and all about it. And so, it's certainly hard to, it's very difficult to, to maintain that 100%. And so, I learned almost everything I know from Charlie, but I don't know much beyond that. So I don't have the same kind of breadth of experience he had. And so, it does feel very, very daunting sometimes, because, and so like, I figure that even if I retained 10% of what Charlie tried to teach and what his philosophies were, that's still more than, most other companies can
That's
actually offer, I think.
That's funny that you say that, because I think when I left Ayre, I sort of, not that the whole thing is about Charlie, but frankly, a lot of it is. And at the time, I did feel like, oh, maybe I should go start a company. And I thought, well, I can't do that. I can't do the things that Charlie could do. And so it took me a long time too. And so eventually I did start another company. And it is interesting still to think about sort of this idea that I think Charlie had so clearly, of having a vision and just speaking that vision so freaking strongly and so consistently that, like, things, real life things form around just your expression of this really strong vision. And I see that. I think that's probably in a lot of startups and a lot of young companies, but I can trace that back to Charlie, for me
Yep.
at least.
Yeah, I gotta give him props for looking ahead and kind of investing in the company's future, kind of through Ariel too, because if you kind of like look at a lot of the hi-fi companies in the landscape, a lot of audio companies in the landscape, there's a lot of these real prolific people like Charlie was, but you don't really see them promoting or pushing the idea of having like an understudy or someone that they're really kind of,
Huh.
training up. It's like you see the main guy, but you don't really hear so much about, their attempts to kind of preserve the design language or the company legacy by distilling that knowledge through somebody. And I think that that's just been a real unique strength that we've had at our disposal. Like this is all Ariel's ever known. It's not like he's bringing in
Yep.
other designers' influence from
Right.
from the outside. So,
Jake, I think that's a great observation because I was trying to think about the audio companies that I know that went out of business after their designer left, and I think you really hit on it. I think that's a big difference is that Charlie and Ariel worked together, and as a result, when Charlie died, then Ariel, you were able to pick up and go from there. But if Charlie had just sort of said, "No, I'm the designer, I'll take care of everything," right? It would have been really hard for Air to continue if that was the case. So yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It's a good observation.
yeah, he was a great teacher, and maybe he didn't even realize it, or maybe he did. It seems like a lot of things that he had done was real deliberate and well thought out, and with long-term kind of solutions in mind. Um,
Yeah.
especially with how we're still using parts from days that he said buy these parts, and it's it's kind of nice to have that foresight in the company.
That's cool. So tell me something you guys are excited about. What's come? I mean,
Oh,
not
well,
that you can tell me new
well,
product secrets, but like, what are you thinking about and working on?
Well, things that I'm really excited for is, it sounds as I've become more in tune with our story and our history and things that Charlie really wanted to see happen. Um, it seems that we had a lot of common interests in the regard that he wanted to get our sound available to everyone. So instead of just having one or two people at home enjoying their Ayre acoustic system, he was really hopeful one day that Ayre would have a bigger impact and have our sound imprinted on and or immortalized on some actual recordings that are enjoyed by anyone on any system.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, yeah, that's something that we could be looking forward to in the near future is, kind of expanding our design language and expertise into other realms of audio that would really benefit from the way that we do things.
Yeah. So you mean like recording equipment?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
We're
I
yeah,
that yeah,
we're kind of
not
looking
to
we're
read too
looking
far
in
into
that
that.
direction.
Yeah.
Um,
It seems like there's a lot of opportunities for that. And also one of the things that I'm fascinated by, is like so many things, recording is spreading out, right? So it's like with good digital, you can have accessibility to recording for people that normally, right? Just think about if you need to have a big analog recording machine and a mixing deck, like those are so expensive, so prohibitive that like unless you have a lot of money, you can't really do it. But you think there's opportunity for good, cheap digital recording equipment that could let amateur musicians create good sound?
yeah, I mean, I think as far as cheap, that might be a hard one to determine, but but yeah, I think the way that we do things, I think would be a tremendous benefit to that industry, and especially when like you hone in on like some of the things that really make us special, like our zero feedback and balanced circuit design approach. It's not only just clean and revealing, but it's incredibly accurate in a timing sense, and
For
especially
sure.
and when you're looking at the recording side of things, that is kind of one of your biggest concerns, is making sure that everything is in time and you're
That's
capturing
right.
a moment in time. And so having a zero feedback, balanced, discrete front end for capturing those time crucial signals, it's going to be a big difference. I think it'll make a significant difference in the recording industry and be a huge
That's
benefit.
awesome.
So that's just one thing. I mean, there's lots of things new. You know, this is our 30th anniversary this year. So
That's just unbelievable. This is
it's
the 30th anniversary of Ayre Acoustics. That's incredible.
yeah, and so it's safe to say there's a wave of new things on the horizon, updates, upgrades, new products. So the hi-fi side of life is going to continue to improve and expand, and we've got our eyes set on some other ways that our technology can benefit the audio world.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited for. What are you excited about, Ariel?
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm definitely also excited about that whole kind of that side of the market that will affect the whole world. And so that was one of Charlie's visions, and I'm really excited about that. But besides that, yeah, I'm excited to to be at the kind of helm of the company now, to push in the direction of both honoring Charlie's legacy, but also reaching for that goal of his, as well as pushing the industry and to being having my own imprint on that as well. And so Charlie's legacy is absolutely important, but there's certain things that many people know he was really stuck in the mud about, and so it in a way was almost limiting. But so want to move forward and be innovative while still honoring the core tenets of what Charlie laid down. So yeah, I'm really just excited about keeping the company alive, keeping it here, making it grow strong again and again, just in strive towards what Charlie laid down as wanting to have be able to I forget the words now, to have an impact through music on everybody in the world, was his original one of his solution statements.
And I think that's great. That's really great to hear, because that is a continuation of the thing that I felt so lucky about being able to work on Ayre, was that it's this kind of you have a positive company, right? It's in the United States, and you have good jobs for people, and you're making a product that essentially improves people's lives because they get to listen to great music, and then do that and figure out how to grow the company, make it sustainable. That's really fun. So you have all of those elements about having a great company, making a product that benefits people, and then growing the company to sustain it and expand what you can do. Awesome. I don't think a lot of companies. There was this guy who was this mentor early on in what we were doing, and he said, and I'll paraphrase because this was his. He said, "It's easy to make money, and it's easy to do things that help people and are good for people, but to do both at the same time is not easy." And so I think that's what you're trying to do.
Trying, yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot to look forward to. I mean, yeah, we have quite a lot of concepts and ideas for the hi-fi world, stuff that we've been so deeply involved with, and already got kind of a roadmap lined out for some other new products. So we just need some more time at this point. Work out a little more free time. We can make some really cool things happen in the next few years.
Free time? Come on. What is this thing you're talking about?
Yeah. So you're not what is your business endeavors these days? Are you currently involved with anything, or?
Yeah. I started working in a company not that long after I left Boulder, or kind of an idea that turned into a company for science education, for some software a web-based teaching platform for science education, and I started working that as a teacher. I was a high school science teacher immediately after I left the audio industry, and then yeah, that was a startup that really during COVID grew really rapidly because it was something that you could use online, and everybody had to learn online, and so that kind of just jump started our access to the market. And then a little over a year ago, sold the company to a larger ed tech company in North Carolina called Discovery Education. So now I work for Discovery, still working in the same project that I started, but now as part of a larger company.
That sounds awesome.
And honestly, in a lot of ways, it's very similar because I really believe strongly in the benefit of science education, and so getting to work on a product that makes science education better, that's something that I'm really motivated to do, and then figuring out how to grow it, just like you're talking about, right, to expand the impact.
Oh, that's great. I mean, some of my favorite memories as a kid was in my in high school was like my physics classes and stuff like that. I mean, like just
That's what I taught.
oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, just some of those things, man, they set me on fire for audio and just, when I started learning about acoustics around high school age, that really kind of like it connected a lot of dots because I was already getting into playing guitar, trying to understand live sound for like running concert sound and boards for like our church and things like that. So once I got into physics and started learning about acoustics, that's when it really started connecting all these dots for me. So
that's awesome. And Charlie had his degree in physics too, if I remember right. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, sounds like he had a amazing command of that as well. So what can we do to drag you back into Ayre? What would bring you back into hanging out with us some more?
You never know. Now I've kind of done this like we were talking about before, like kind of continuing with those transitions. And there's some really nice things about working for a big company, and there's some things that you don't have quite the sense of autonomy and freedom that you had when you're on your own. So I do feel a little itch to do something. So who knows? I'm gonna come to Boulder pretty soon, and I'll definitely let you guys know and come visit. I gotta buy some audio gear, so I gotta come visit.
Yeah, and we could show you some of the stuff we maybe aren't ready to talk about here. Yeah,
I'd love that for sure.
Well, Ariel, do you have any other things you want to extract out of our good friend Peter? I don't want to keep all of us on Zoom all day. It's 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock and we've already had a 10% carry us through the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna have to wrap, otherwise we go too long for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
We'll have to have a follow-up with Peter because I think there's probably more stories that after this he's going to be like, oh, I should have talked about this. I should have mentioned this.
That's definitely going to happen. Yeah, and I wish I could, since all the photos were pre-digital, I don't know where they are, but they were. Yeah, I'm sure that we have some. I can find great photos of like the first time we went to CES and other stuff like that. So yeah,
some good CES stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, I usually like to have a little slideshow ready to go to kind of show people some fun things, but this topic is kind of early Ayre beginning, so I didn't have that many resources to dig through. But I'm glad you love the EX8. That is kind of like that's the new hotness. That's like our new kind of design language, and it's something that you'll kind of see trickling its way, like some things in that will trickle its way over to other products too. So if you like what you're hearing on the EX8, you'll love what's coming out down the road.
That's great. Yeah, I can't wait to get mine. I'll just leave it at that. So I'm really happy that I got that ordered, and it was really great to hear it. I sort of figured it would be good, and all the other Ayre stuff that I have is, and I'd heard good things from other people, but getting to hear it firsthand, I was like, all right, this is what I want for sure.
Yeah.
But so when I probably beginning of the year, I'll make some plans for when I'm going to come out. I'll let you guys know, and we can hook up and listen and drink some more beer. You got to have some more of that delirium tremenzo. Can you make that happen?
I will
happen.
make that happen. I'll find it for us.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, Peter, I'm all out. Ariel is probably all out too, but thank you so much for your time and for sharing some of these great stories and catching
You're
us,
welcome.
all of our airhead
Super,
friends, up on air history.
super fun. Really nice to talk to you both.
Right. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.